You are with the big story here. I'm Seher. What we're discussing today on Top Focus is with respect to the sale of gold and why it's important to have a gold hallmark. This is as per an announcement that has been made by the Consumer Affairs Ministry, a new rule for the sale and purchase of gold and how it helps customers. All jewelers will only be allowed to sell hallmarked gold jewelry of 14, 18 and 22 carat. The new rule, which will kick in from next year, which is the 15th of January 2021. So this is essentially being done to ensure that only pure gold of the valued quality as stated is sold to customers. It's not mixed with any other element, so to say. Gold is not adulterated. New rule that will impact sellers more than buyers. If any jeweler fails to get their gold jewelry hallmarked, the penalty then could range from 1 lakh rupees to 5 times the value of the commodity, along with a 1-year jail term as well. Before we explain this further and thrash into the nitty-gritties of the workings of this, let's take a listen into this official statement that is coming from our Consumer Affairs Minister.
जो भी एक साल के बाद 15 जनवरी 2021 के बाद जो भी गोल्ड की ज्वेलरी और आर्टिफैक्ट बिकेंगे वो बिना हॉलमार्क के नहीं बिक पाएंगे और वो 3 कैरेट में ही 14, 18 और 22 कैरेट में ही बेचे जा सकेंगे।
कुल मिलाकर के जो है 892 जो है हॉलमार्किंग केंद्र है और 234 जिला में है, तो 600 जिला हैं। तो हम लोगों ने कहा है कि हम लोग उसमें प्रायोरिटी ले रहे हैं। हम लोग इसमें जन जागरण अभियान शुरू करेंगे। हम लोग इसमें क्या करते हैं कि जागरूकता अभियान भी क्या करते हैं कि आप लोगों के माध्यम से इससे आज हो गया। तो चूंकि जिन लोगों के पास में घर में है तो उनको भी तो कम से कम पता रहे कि क्या कि हमारे पास में जो सोना है नकली है कि असली है।
Let's get in further inputs before we throw this open to our experts with us. I have with us my colleague Tanima getting us further details here to understand what is a gold hallmark. Tanima, this is something with respect to a standard which is set, which we've seen in other countries as well, but hasn't been imperative across the board as far as India is concerned. So what is this gold hallmark? How it helps everyone across the board, both the sellers as well as the consumer then?
That's right. In fact, as you were mentioning, Seher, that this is essentially being done in order to ensure that the purity of the gold is standard across, whether it is being sold in whichever city is being sold and the carat that is being sold, irrespective of that, to ensure that the quality is standard. That is the reason why now this move has been made by the central government. If we just look at the basics of what is hallmark gold, the first point being it's an official mark on gold jewelry. So we'll actually take our viewers through what are the marks which appear on that piece of gold when it is hallmarked. The second point being it guarantees purity and fineness of gold. So that is the essential aim. In order to maintain a uniform standard in the quality of gold, this is a particular standard which is being followed by the government, and essentially it indicates that there is a particular fineness which is being maintained. It also indicates that gold standards adheres to international standards of purity. So as you were mentioning that it is followed in several other countries across the globe, and in order to match up to that particular standard, this is a particular format which is followed across the world, and now this standard is also being very strictly going to be followed rather from next year onwards. It helps to differentiate between fake and real gold. So essentially, as I said, it is a kind of stamp or a logo that is put on that piece of gold in order to ensure, authenticate the quality of that gold, and it of course helps to differentiate between what is fake and what is pure quality gold. It's available in 23 carat, 22, 21 carat and 18 carat gold as well. So these are some of the basic points in order to help our viewers understand what do we mean when we say hallmark gold. Let's also take our viewers quickly through what exactly are the logos which appear on, or how to identify a hallmark gold. So there are 4 logos to actually, or 4 seals rather, to look out for. First, if you see over there, which appears on the top left of the screen there, it's the Bureau of Indian Standards logo. So this is, of course, the topmost agency in the country which authenticates standards. So that's the logo which appears there. Here, this is the retailer's logo which appears over here. If you can see it again, it's the retailer who is selling this piece of gold. Their logo will also appear. That is also part of the hallmarking. process. If you go into the next point there, it also shows its purity in carat. So again, as we mentioned, there are 4 categories which will be for which hallmarking will be made mandatory. So that purity of carat is signified over here. And the last seal to look out for is Asing Center's logo, which appears over there. So these are the 4 seals. If somebody, a layperson who's just walking into the store wants to identify whether it is a hallmarked gold, these are the 4 seals they'll have to look out for.
Okay. All right, Tanima, many thanks for getting us all of that information. And remember, this is all also valuable information with respect to what the consumer needs to be looking for, as per information that came in from the Consumer Affairs Minister there, that there will also be an awareness campaign here to help consumers understand how this helps them, what needs to be followed. I'm going to be introducing our panelists, our experts with us right now. For this, we have Mr. Surendra Mehta, the IBGA National Secretary, the IBGA, which is the India Bullions and Jewelers Association. We also have Mr. Rishank Jain, also Mr. Tilok Chand Zaveri, and Mr. Bijon Mishra, Consumer Affairs Activist. We appreciate all of you being with us, but hold on with us just about for another minute. I'm going to get in some ground inputs from our correspondents. This is, of course, with respect to how customers are reacting to this and what they know so far about the process involved. Let me go across first to our correspondent Amita Balachandran here with us. Amita, this is with respect to the process involved. Part of it, of course, already has been explained by Tanima, what are going to be the markers of this. But to what extent will the validity, the legality of this process be vetted as far as consumers buying a piece of gold is concerned? Amita, if my voice is going through, please get us those inputs. Okay, we seem to have lost that connection. Reconnecting with Amita on that in just a bit. Our correspondent Sreeja is there as well, and Sreeja is going to be getting us some customer voices here. Sreeja, this is a fresh announcement that is coming from the government of India. How are customers reacting to this? Because there's, of course, still a 1-year time for preparedness on ground that has been given.
Well, that's right, Seher. In fact, taking it forward from what Tanima had mentioned, the 4 important seals in a gold ornament, what we understand is that, remember, not every jeweler here in Bengaluru is hallmarked, because if you're really going by the data provided by the central government, it just talks about nearly 40% of the jewelers here, in not just in city but across India, have only been hallmarked, but the rest of it are not being hallmarked. We did speak to some of the customers. What they tell us is that they don't know, or they don't have a knowledge about what really hallmarking is, first. And secondly, what they tell us, the major challenge, especially some of the stores here in Bengaluru, speaking to them, what we understand is that they face, there are several people who come and sell, especially the gold ornament, in the bigger jewelry showrooms. And when they are told that there is lesser quantity of gold in this, and they will get a price which is expected much lesser than that, that is when they understand that there is something called hallmarking. So speaking to the store manager right here at Malabar Showroom, Jutesh, he also tells us that especially hallmarking is to do only to show the purity of the gold. There are several of the customers who are still not aware, but what he also tells us that the central government will have to carry out some of the awareness programs, one. But he also did point out major challenges, especially faced by some of the jewelers. What they're going to face in the coming days is that anybody can do the hallmarking. Remember, Seher, it is not just BIS. There are people who are out there who can just do the laser engraving on that particular gold ornament. So what really is the guarantee that it is BIS hallmarked? Back to you.
Okay, let's let in a voice here from our panelists. We have Mr. Surendra Mehta with us. Mr. Mehta, if we take into account what are the concerns of consumers here, because this is primarily with respect to a step that is coming from a government for being people's friendly as well, that if you're buying the gold, there is an authentication stamp, there is a mark which is absolutely for a consumer being rest assured that what you're buying is genuine, what you're buying is real.
See, basically, it's an excellent step taken by the government for the consumer. This will also help the jewelry industry, as the consumer is going to regain the confidence in the gold. As far as the question raised by raised is whether it is an hallmark or whether it is just a laser marking. For that also, we have given suggestion to the government that there has to be a cloud-based identification number on each of the jewelry, so which will help any consumer to identify whether this is a correct hallmark or the fake hallmark. But this is one of the excellent steps taken by the government, and the only thing is that it will bring transparency to the whole gold ecosystem. See, at present, we say that there are about 3 lakh jewelers in the country, but whether there is no census data available,
Yes.
this making hallmarking mandatory will also get the government the complete data on the gold, how many jewelers are there in the country.
All right. Mr. Bijon Mishra, as far as consumers are concerned, because this is something that is going to come into effect with the government giving 1 year's time, which means that gold jewelers are also given time here to do away with old stock, to clear up the old stock which is not hallmarked, and then this would be implemented on ground after 1 year. So do you think that this is 1 year which still makes the consumer vulnerable?
Well, consumers have been vulnerable for many years, and we have been demanding this from the government for the last 20 years, which has finally happened. So I'm very happy that the government has gone ahead to take this very grand initiative, and I'm sure that it will become a very successful initiative in empowering the consumers. As you all know, India is the largest consumer of gold in the world. So, being the largest consumer of gold in the world, even the poorest of the poor in our country has some kind of a gold in their house at some point of time in terms of festivity or marriage. So, we have huge number of jewelers who are non-registered, who are not accountable, who don't come under the radar of the government. So, this initiative will actually bring in a kind of an authenticity and credibility into the business. And as I heard, there has to be a registry immediately come on the cloud where every jeweler is marked. And we know that even at the remotest places of the country, the jeweler is registered under the cloud. And what we want to tell you is that this 1 year will enable the government to build an infrastructure which will not only build awareness about this facility, but will also ensure that if somebody is trying to do something wrong, then how that culprit will be caught and punished. So they have a deterrent punishment. Now that has to
Okay.
become very efficient and effective.
All right.
We have always seen laws are made, but enforcement becomes very poor. So we have to ensure that within this 1 year, we have to build a back-end strong, robust mechanism of enforcement. Not only awareness, and awareness is key. They have to invest a lot of money in making the consumers aware and also making it very friendly in terms of registering complaints or registering frauds or registering any kind of a substandard product being sold at the market. So government has a very important role to play, including the consumer groups in the country, including the consumer themselves. So I feel that the industry will become very accountable, transparent, and we will be able to get gold at the right purity. But another very important point I want to make is we must know
Okay,
that
so
when we
as
try
Mr. Mehta had explained here, that this is with respect to bringing about transparency in the gold ecosystem. Mr. Jain, would you be in agreement with this, or do you think that the penalty that has been put across for those who don't comply, that is too strong?
I totally agree with what Mr. Mishra said, because I guess being that penalty getting into this hallmark jewelry, people will be scared, or they will even be pitch perfect where they will not lose out. Like if we've seen that a lot of jewelers might have a lot of stock pending with them, So getting all of them hallmark, or probably getting lazy and thinking that I will get my 50% of the stock hallmark and 50 not. So because of that, it will put pressure on a jeweler, and he will try to hallmark each and every jewelry time by time by the given period of time.
Right.
So that will help the industry.
Okay, Mr.
Even,
Jain, stay on with
know
us.
that
What we're going to
previous
show
products
to
have
you
been
and our
made
viewers is
by
something
whether they
very
were of the same
interesting.
quality or
Is the processing center for this hallmark, the behind-the-scenes process here, which is going to be very interesting to be explained and watched. We have with us our correspondent Amita getting us those details here. Amita, please go ahead.
Well, we will definitely show you the process that happens here at the hallmarking center. We are at one of the hallmarking centers here at Zaveri Bazaar. The process is extremely elaborate. If I can quickly show you around, this is where the gold is brought in and is tested. This is the first level of testing that happens. There is a computer which determines whether it is, so to a certain level pure or not. And the ones which fail this test are immediately rejected. Once it is approved, there is another laboratory process that really takes place. If I can quickly show you around, this is where it's weighed first, and then post that it is scraped as well. And this is the instrument that's been used to scrape some amount of gold, which then goes in for further testing. And this is extremely important because there is a laboratory above here, and that is where it's actually determined whether it is completely pure or not. If I can show you around, this is the lab here, and if I can talk to the gentleman here who will explain further how exactly this happens. आप बताइए कैसे आप टेस्ट करते हैं?
जी, ये अभी स्क्रैप आता है यहाँ पे गोल्ड का, जो भी है सैंपल्स का, ऑर्नामेंट का, वो यहाँ पे आके मेल्टिंग किया जाता है। फिर वो कुपलेशन प्रोसेस, लीड प्रोसेस में जाता है। यहाँ पे जो अनवांटेड मेटल्स है वो निकल जाता है। जो कॉम्बो है कॉपर, सिल्वर और गोल्ड का, वो सिर्फ बैलेंस रह जाता है। उसके बाद वो एनिल किया जाता है ये एनिलिंग फर्नेस में। यहाँ पे एनिलिंग करने के बाद वो एसिड प्रोसेस में यहाँ पे जाएगा। इधर जो एसिड प्रोसेस में जाता है, उसके बाद वो प्योर कॉर्नेट बच जाता है, प्योर गोल्ड बच जाता है। उसके बाद वो कॉर्नेट वेटिंग में जाता है। इससे क्या होता है कि जो प्योरिटी है गोल्ड की, वो पता चलती है हमें, जो भी है।
तो ये क्यों करना पड़ता है? ये जो आप इंस्ट्रूमेंट दिखाने जा रहे हो, आप वो कितना महत्वपूर्ण है?
ये सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट है एक हॉलमार्किंग का, जो इसमें पता चलता है कि गोल्ड की प्योरिटी क्या है। इससे कस्टमर की जो भी है रिक्वायरमेंट 22 कैरेट 18 कैरेट वो फिक्स हो जाते हैं कि वो उनको सही दे रहे हैं हम लोग।
So this is where it goes in, where the purity of the gold is really tested after all of those instruments. But first, let me also take you through the instrument which is used really for hallmarking. Once it is determined how pure that gold is really, once it is determined that it is pure, this is where the hallmarking process really takes place. This is where those 4 important marks that consumers must look into and assess will happen here. आप बता रहे थे हमें कि यहाँ पे ये फाइनल,
ये फाइनल है, मार्किंग है। इस पे जिसका लाइसेंस है बीआईएस का, उसका हम करते हैं काम। इसमें आ रहा है बीआईएस का लोगो आएगा, सेंटर का लोगो आएगा, 22 कैरेट 9160 और पार्टी का लोगो ये आता है। ये फाइनल हो जाता है इससे।
All right, so this is the final process, and the laboratory process is extremely important. Post that, this is where it comes for that hallmarking to really take place. He was telling us that only 20% of jewelers till now were really doing this, but now of course it's compulsory for everyone to do it.
Okay. Let's get in Mr. Mehta here on this, of the Jewelers Association here. Mr. Mehta, given that we've had the BIS already running a hallmarking scheme for gold jewelry, and this has been on since April 2000, what has changed with this recent announcement that has come in from the Government of India?
See, with this recent announcement, the change which has come is the government has given 1 year time period only to dispose of the old jewelry or to melt the old jewelry. But from today onwards, as soon as the notification comes out, no jewelers in the country is supposed to manufacture jewelry except 14, 18 and 22 carat. This is as far as new jewelry which is to be manufactured is concerned. But for the old jewelry, 1 year time is given. And all the jewelers who are not yet registered with the BIS authorities, they have to register in the next 1 year time. So it has been a major change. The only thing I think the government should clarify that the jewelers will be able to sell 14, 18 and 22 carats only. But what happens if a consumer goes to a jeweler and say with his bullion and say I want to make a jewelry which need not qualify for 14, 18 and 22, because in this case the jewelers will not be selling jewelry but will only be making jewelry based on the gold which is supplied by the consumer. So I think that clarification is required, because in that case the people who are asking for 20 carat, 21 carat or 23 carat jewelry will buy the bullion first and then go to jeweler. So indirectly the jewelers, most of the jewelers will be required to do the work which is not 14, 18 and 22, and then consumer can also have the jewelry without hallmarking.
Yeah, Syed, I want to come in.
I'm going to put that forth to Mr. Jain in just a bit. Yes, Mr. Bijon Mishra, this is also a concern with respect to those who have old jewelry, inherited jewelry, family jewelry. Does that impact ownership of old jewelry? Can this be seen retrospectively, or is this only now and henceforth?
Said, it's a very important issue. The government has to come out with a lot of clarity in terms of what do I do with my old jewelry, number one. Number two, how do I determine the pricing in terms of the cost or the value of my bullion or my jewelry. And if I go to sell, most of the dealers, they try to put a fee on it and they cut the price. So we must have a standardization in terms of pricing too. So there has to be a lot of clarity brought in this 1 year's time or with immediate effect, so that we don't get into legal disputes, and we don't have to get into legal disputes to resolve such issues. So a kind of an ombudsman must be created, a kind of a layer should be there where mediation can take place if consumers are not happy. So there are a number of instruments and tools which are available in the modern technological world, which an ordinary consumer can access on their smartphone or through their mobile phone to get such informations promptly and which is very credible. So government has to do a lot of work at the back end from today onwards. It is just not an announcement. The announcement has to be followed with a lot of action which needs to be put in place.
Of course. That's right, which is why, of course, the government has also made this announcement saying that this would be compulsory in 1 year's time, exactly 1 year, 15 January 2021. Mr. Jain, in your view, is there going to be, could there be an extra fee for consumers to handle and take into account only because a piece of jewelry being sold has that gold hallmarking stamp?
Currently, we've seen that gold will be selling at its price, but max we've seen that hallmark to get a piece hallmark, the jewelry center, the hallmarking centers are charging 25 plus GST, which is a very marginal amount. Probably a lot of jewelers will charge a little premium for the hassle they are taking on the gold jewelry, but I don't think so. Apart from that, there will be a major cost incursion for the consumer.
Okay, and will you be allowed to be charging that extra to the consumer? Because if this is made mandatory by the government for the sake of consumers, will you be allowed to charge that extra fee then?
There's no standard here. How Mishra ji told that there should be a standard. There should be a platform where people should know the pricing of the gold jewelry, where a standard price should be applicable to the entire markets. If such a thing happens, then I guess consumer will never have any issues with pricing or overcharges for hallmark jewelries.
All right. We appreciate all our experts speaking with us, our team of correspondents getting us those ground inputs as well. So the big takeaway here is that this is a welcome announcement by the government of India. It aims to set across a pan-India standard of bringing about transparency in the gold ecosystem and is working more in favor of consumers, customers of gold. There is a penalty that would be put across to those jewelers who are not complying, and there is 1 year's time to work this through. A lot of announcements, nitty-gritties, guidelines that have to be put forth by the government of India, would be speaking with stakeholders. There is 1 year's time to smoothen, iron out this process to bring about that gold hallmarking pan-India standard. Thanks for being with us.